Resident Evil 4.
5 long years, fans of the series had to wait to get a true follow-up to Resident Evil. Sure, there were a ton of sequels and spin-offs, but it wasn't until 2005 that gamers got the numbered sequel they had been waiting for. RE4 definitely shook things up, but stayed true to the series as well, with many franchise themes returning. And to me, that's just a good sequel. It didn't hurt that the original game's creator Shinji Mikami returned to help with this project. Much like its predecessors, this game went through 4 different development stages before we got the RE4 that we all now know. That's just crazy. Leon Kennedy returns in this installment. This guy has went all the way from a rookie cop to now Secret Service, as he is sent on a mission to save the president's daughter. The game's opening sets a dark, murky tone immediately. While searching, Leon stumbles onto this village. While there, he runs into these fine folks.
Joseph!
That's right, zombies are gone and now have been replaced with these infected folks. They are called Los Plagas, or Los Ganatos, which translates to cattle, but more specifically, the herd. No more mindless, slow, lumbering zombies. Los Ganados are infected individuals with cognitive skills, more agility, and heightened strength. Oh, and in case you didn't notice, they carry weapons, too. They took a risk with the location, and while different, it was great, just again, in my opinion. Certain staples of the series returned as well, making it feel like the sequel that we had all been waiting for despite the new locale. The traditional inventory system was back, now with a few upgrades. The memorable boss battles returned and just overall came together to make an amazingly awesome, amazingly creepy Resident Evil game. RE4 had other new additions as well, such as the cult aspect. Up until this point, we've battled the evil Umbrella Corporation. And while still present, they take a back seat to the immediate threat of the cult. I'd like to note that this is the first time to my knowledge that the Resident Evil series began to take this approach. It's kind of like the traveling merchant. RE4 introduces this shadowy salesman. There have been a lot of theories as to who or what this guy is. What the hell? Dude is always ahead of you. Yeah, really convenient and all, but how does he do that? It doesn't matter how far out of the way the game makes you travel, he will always be there before you are. Who is the strange shadowy salesman? And does he play a bigger part in the Resident Evil lore? Overall, RE4 is a great title. It won several Game of the Year awards. To me personally, the difficulty was just hard enough. The survival aspects came back in a big way. The boss battles were unforgettable, the gameplay was smooth, and most importantly, the game was actually scary. Oh, I miss that. RE4 was truly disturbing. It made me feel uneasy while playing it. Made me feel all dirty and gritty and dank, and I loved it.
Resident Evil 5.
Alright, now we're getting into controversial territory. RE5. Most will agree they feel like this is when the series began its decline. You, once again, play as Chris Redfield. This time, the game is set in Africa. Yeah. I really don't have a lot to say about this game. Even though it was on a newer console generation than the previous installment, it still felt like a lackluster version of RE4. And I know what you're thinking, if it's so similar to 4 and you just liked it so much, why don't you like 5? Well, where to begin? First and foremost, just speaking personally, I thought the story was lacking and overall forgettable. Did anyone else notice how much of the game takes place in broad daylight? Yes, while Resident Evil 4 and 5 are similar, the setting is what makes all the difference. As I mentioned, Resident Evil 4 was a scary game. This one, not so much. I guess that brings us to the main complaint and argument. Many gamers, myself included, felt that this is when the series went more action-based rather than relying on its survival horror roots. To be fair to this title, it did have a few good boss fights. I will say this, I've played the game twice now. The first time was by myself and overall was a frustrating experience. The second time, a buddy of mine was playing as well. This game shines in co-op. Resident Evil 5 was obviously built and meant to be played with someone else. It makes all the difference in the world. I'm not saying the game was terrible. I guess I expected a little bit more from Resident Evil.
Resident Evil 6.
So earlier I mentioned the original Resident Evil trilogy, which is RE 1, 2, and 3. Although many people would trade out 3 for Code Veronica any day. 6 marks the end of the newer trilogy. Hell, I even thought it was the end of the franchise. Whether it was intended to be or not, RE6 definitely felt like the final chapter. It was a return to form. After the controversial response from RE5, Capcom wanted to make the 6th installment more like the original trilogy. Zombies made their return, this mainly because of the resurgence of zombies in pop culture. The game returned to its darker roots, the tone, the setting, the music, all were great improvements from the previous installment. This is also the first time, to my knowledge anyway, that most of the main characters were all featured in the same game. That being said, there was still way too much action. I don't think it helped that Operation Raccoon City, another action-based Resident Evil game, came out around the same time as 6. This only muddied the waters. Players and fans of the series didn't want the mainstream action direction they were taking. We wanted to be scared. We wanted to feel the tension we felt in the original trilogy. We wanted to know the feeling of only having 5 bullets left. We wanted to witness the horror of something new, not rehashed, but the creepiness the Resident Evil series originally brought us. Is that so much to ask? It's okay. Calm down, Mikey. It's okay. The redeeming factor of Resident Evil 6 was the story. Even though it was more horror than survival horror, the fact that effort was clearly put in made it an alright game. The story was split up into 4 character scenarios, all intertwined to create a larger story. You could play as Chris Redfield, Leon Kennedy, Ada Wong, and Jake Mueller, each with their own partner. This large narrative centered around the new C virus. You could tell this game was a true passion project. Whether or not they delivered, you could tell Capcom at least tried. I've been in this industry long enough. I've seen lots of games that are so polarizing. Some people love them, some people hate them. But I have never quite seen the response to a game like Resident Evil 6 had received. Reviews of the title range from one end of the spectrum to the other. That's why, especially when it comes to RE6, I just suggest gamers play it and judge it for yourself. To me personally, it's just okay. I think it receives a few extra bonus points for at least trying to return to the formula that made it so great to begin with. Joseph! In closing, the Resident Evil franchise has had its ups and downs. We had to give credit though. Without Resident Evil, Biohazard, we might not have the survival horror genre in gaming. It hit me while making this episode. The Resident Evil series is really subjective. These games can easily be viewed through both rose-tinted glasses and a skeptic's eye. I guess it really just depends on where you were at, how old you were, and what you were living through when you first played these games. I'll close out this special lengthy edition of Creepy Gaming just like I started it. People have asked, and I have now answered. What games have actually scared you, Mike? The original Resident Evil titles definitely go on that list. And because of that, the Resident Evil anthology shall forever go down in creepy gaming history. Woo! Man, that was a long episode. That was a lot to cover, but there you have it. That's Resident Evils 1 through 6. Yes, I probably could have gone a little bit deeper into the Albert Wesker storylines or Umbrella Corporation, but I didn't want to spoil too much for those who haven't played the games yet. If you are new to the franchise, I strongly suggest Resident Evils 1, 2, Code Veronica, and 4. They're worthy just for the creepiness alone. Plus, there's a ton of sequels and spin-offs for you to choose from. First episode of Creepy Gaming Season 7 in the bag, baby. That's what I'm talking about. Thank you. Thank you for helping this be possible. It's really a shame with the Capcom Resident Evil series or Biohazard or whatever you want to call it that it's really kind of formulaic, you know, and how they deviate from the formula from time to time, but how it still continues to go on, you know. And, you know, speaking of formula, are we picking that up? Does anybody else hear that? Oh, we are. What is this, Southpaw Regional Wrestling? I thought we had some production quality around here. What the hell? Oh yeah, this show has a formula too. See you for Resident Evil 7. Peace!